circumstances again. And it got to such an extent that Moses was banished from the promised land, as were the Israelites. Because in temper he struck that rock. Okay? See, they were complaining, they were moaning. He wants us to die. But yet, he'd already proved it. I can strike this rock, and water will come from it. But God said, I want you to speak to it this time. I feel sorry for Moses. He was probably fed up with them. 2 million people grumbling all the time about, they like this. And where's God when you need him? And yet when you look through the accounts, he was there every minute of every day, every step they took. And because of their grumbling, he loses his temper, strikes a rock. Right, you're not going in. Terrible. I felt so sorry for him. Maybe he should have struck the people. Then there would have been water coming out. You know, when I read the bit where he said God took him to the mountain and he saw the promised land, and then he died. My heart breaks for Moses. I think, you poor dad. All because of someone else. Well, I can't blame it all on somebody. He should have lost his temper, but there we are. I can relate to him with that. And then we go to the Amalekites defeated. The victory came through prayer. And apparently, to stand with uplifted arms is still the position of prayer in many parts of the world. People recognize that while I stand here with my hands lifted high, the battle is being won. See, we don't see the battle because it's in the heavens. But while I stand here, hands lifted high, praying, interceding, thanking God for what's happening, the battle is being won. We're here. Help us, God. These chapters are intended to teach us that difficulties and trials are to be seen as tests. You know, twice it says 15:25. God, let me just get something straight. God doesn't test it. I want to get asked it. God doesn't test you. But in tests, God is there for you, and he's going to bring you through it, and he's going to show you something through it. But it isn't God who's testing. Don't ever shout out, God, why are you testing me? It isn't God. But he will use tests to teach you. I was thinking this, it's like an exam. You learn stuff. You learn it, you learn it, you learn it in school, and then you got your exams. And then you bring forth everything you remember to get you through our exam. And I think it's like that with God. God, if you spend time with God, God will teach you through his word, through prayer and praise and worship and interceding and everything else. Now when the exam comes, you can get through the exam. Because see, it does say, doesn't it, that be of good cheer because I've overcome the world. So if he's already overcome it, then it's for our benefit that we go through it. You know, I've used that saying so many times, if you don't kill it, it'll make you stronger. But I think that's where it applies here. If it didn't kill them, they were stupid because he should have made their faith stronger every time he went forward. But then it took a new generation to rise up and then believe what they'd heard to take the promised land. And the other thing as well, do you know why I think they had to have the big difficulty in the beginning? Because see, they had to realize that they wasn't ready to take the promised land. See, their faith wasn't strong enough for them to walk into the promised land. It was obvious because the very first obstacle they came to, they feared and they worried and they stressed. But by the end of all of their 40 years of walking on the wilderness, then faith was ready to say, I can work. I can take this land. See, 40 years. 40 is significant in the Bible for probation. And it will either end up in you winning or you losing. Now, for many of the Israelites, in fact, I was nearly all of them, they lost their 40 years. They didn't get to go in. Because of their groaning, because of their grumbling, because of their lack of faith. So I want this generation, and I'm covering all generations here, from the youngest, from Daniel to the oldest, and I'm not even going to say who the oldest is, because I don't want to get in trouble. But in all generations, we can take the promised land if we only believe. You know, I was going to start by saying, think of 5 things that God has blessed you, got you through in your life, and just focus on them a minute. I'm not going to think, I want you to focus on 5 things that God has done for you in your life, in your kind of testimony there. 5 things. Just meditate on them a minute. I want to prove something to you now. Can you all think of 5 things?
I think of 3.
Well, 3 will do. Think on a 3. See, what I want you to realize is, right, if you were in a place this morning that is a wilderness, where you can't think of, or you can't remember what God has done, if you start bringing back to remembrance, it will start your faith. It will start your raising up again. But God got me up with this. God got me up with that. God did that for me. Flipping it. Remember when God did that? And your faith will start to rise. And the more your faith rises, it doesn't matter where you are in the wilderness. Your faith will get you through. Your belief that nothing is impossible for God will get you through. See, Deuteronomy 2:7. It says, He has watched over your journey through this vast desert. These 40 years the Lord your God has been with you, and you have not lacked anything. You don't see it when you're going through it, but when you come out the other side and you look back, you think, God was with me all along. God was with me all along, but I couldn't see it. Because see, that is what the enemy tries to do. Block you from seeing what God is doing. The other thing, have you ever wondered why they walked around the wilderness? And they didn't just stay in the one place. Why did they have to walk around for 40 years? I walked up the house this morning and I was blooming shattered. They could have gone back to bed. Except I preached last week about going back to bed. See, I believe their faith and dependence on God was strengthened through the difficult challenges along the way. So if they'd stayed in one place, they wouldn't have had difficult challenges to overcome. Therefore, their faith and dependence on God would have been stagnant. But by continually moving and encountering new things, their faith kept growing and growing and growing until the day when the promised land stood before her and they thought, do you know what? We can take this. We can take this because of everything else we've been through. Everything we've been through has led us to this place. We get tested to see whether we are worshipping people who occasionally grumble or grumbling people who occasionally worship. See, in everything, apart from the manna and the quail, Moses had to kind of raise his hands or do something with his hands every time. With the Red Sea, hold his hand out. Striking a rock, I suppose he would have done it kind of like that.